All right. Well, thank you very much, JC. We are so thrilled to have you on board. This is Jaycie Osterberg, and JC is with Quixote Communities. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and Quixote Communities so that folks have an idea of what you're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you. My name's Jaycie Osterberg, and I'm the executive director for the nonprofit Quixote Communities. We are located over in Olympia, Washington. So we're over in the capital. And we started off as a really small grassroots organization. We started out as a tent city, actually, of folks who were experiencing homelessness, and we kind of went from church parking lot to church parking lot. They hosted us as a tent city, and I should turn that off. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
That's what we get with doing stuff on the virtual. And so we were hosted from church parking lot to church parking lot, and had to move like every 60 to 90 days because we couldn't be a permanent tent city, and this was back in like 2007. And so the nonprofit actually kind of grew from the different folks at the churches and the faith-based community who were helping to host these camps, because there was a lot of stuff that went into that, right? So they had to be hosted 24/7. There had to be someone at a front desk making sure everything was going all right, and helping with food and helping actually move things. And so it was actually quite a big process, if you can imagine. And so the folks got together and said, this isn't permanent. These folks need a dignified place to live. And the tiny house village concept came up, working with the residents. And so that is what we are today. It took a long time, obviously, and a lot of work and advocacy, but we are a permanent supportive housing tiny house village here in Olympia, Washington. We house 30 folks. We're single housing, so we're one person in each unit. And we also have a community center. So we have a large community center with about 2,500 square feet with a large double kitchen. And then we also have our showers are in the building, as well as a dining room and a kind of multi-purpose room. And then we also have staff. And so that's kind of where the supportive part of our model comes in. So we have supportive staff that work one-on-one with residents to help them with whatever they're needing. If that's help, getting a driver's license, or getting on food stamps or benefits, help filling out paperwork, or if they're wanting to go back to school, or employment, if they need help, paying off fees and fines, reuniting with family, really the whole gamut. We do whatever we can to help folks. And if we don't have that, then we look out to the outer community and help with referrals and kind of care coordination as well. So that's what we do, and it's been really successful that we're actually expanding right now. We're under construction for another tiny house village, specifically for homeless veterans. That's up in a town called Ording, which is about an hour northeast of where we're at. So that's under construction. We're really excited. Things have kind of been slow going with COVID now that hit everyone, but we're hoping to open at the end of this year. So really, really excited.
That is really awesome.
Yeah.
I just to hear that even just that short description, and we've talked before this as well,
Mm-hmm.
To hear how this whole idea developed and it kind of took off was really important. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about was the importance of you all are not lone rangers. You're not trying to do this alone. It's a community effort, and I wonder if you could just go ahead and talk to that, especially how important that is when it comes to the idea of homelessness and trying to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mean lone rangers as in there's other folks doing tiny house villages, or do you mean us working with our community?
Working together as a community, as
Okay.
opposed to we're going to do it ourselves, and
Yeah.
we're going to provide everything, and we have the answer.
Yeah, and I kind of skipped over. There was like a 6-year stint of when we were a tiny house, or excuse me, a tent city, and so that's really where the organization was formed, because yeah, we couldn't do it alone. This was because of, the tent city even existed because of the folks who were experiencing homelessness were saying, hey, we need a place that's safe and we need our community together. And there was a lot of homeless advocacy activists that helped with that as well. And then the faith-based community really is why we exist, to be honest, because they were the ones that reached out and were like, hey, yeah, we are going to, make a stand and say, yes, you can stay, in our parking lot, which is a huge, risk for some folks. And there's always fear of the unknown and concern, like what's going to happen when we have, 30 strangers. And they really stepped up. We had over 6 faith-based communities that hosted us throughout. We're kind of in a tri-city, so it's Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, and we traveled throughout those tri-cities to different parking lots, and those were people that said, yes, we will welcome you, and they helped with all the logistics too. That wasn't just people coming in and, okay, I'm going to take a bus over and move to this church parking lot. No, they had, this was where they lived. It was everything that they owned. And so that had, we had U-Hauls and people help with trucks. And there's a lot of logistics that go into that, to picking up and moving 30 people's homes. And then as well with the food and just with everything. And so that was a huge thing. And I wasn't there during that time, but I've heard stories and it's just really remarkable. We still have volunteers and people on our board that were part of that movement and were kind of like the founding fathers and mothers and people of our organization. And it wasn't just that, it was also, we had to work with our local government as well too, right? So in order to build something, you work through those channels. And the city of Olympia, we were really lucky that they were really supportive from day one and helped us, since it's a tiny house village, it's kind of funky with permitting and codes. And so we actually had to get code changes. And in order to get that, we had to get it approved through the city council, which seems like a huge obstacle, but they were really supportive and helped that happen. And then also working with county commissioners. The land that we are on is actually owned by the county, and they let us lease it for $1 a year for 41 years. That would, land is so expensive, as we all know, so that wouldn't be possible without them as well. And then just all the people that really blood, sweat, and tears that put everything into this. We had to hold a ton of meetings, every time you're going to build something, we had to hold kind of like impromptu town halls because the neighbors were really nervous and scared once it was like, this is the location. We're in an interesting location. We're in an industrial park. So it's a business park basically. And you'd think like, oh, they'd be fine with it, right? But they weren't. They actually sued the city saying that they didn't want us there. And so we had, the folks who were experiencing homelessness themselves came and testified and told their stories, which is super powerful and kind of humanize them. And just the activists that helped with that to say, hey, no, like these people need a place to stay. And we obviously won that because we're where we are now. And now we have a great relationship with our neighbors. But yeah, it's a group effort, and it still is as well too, right? So we're a small nonprofit. I've got 2 staff on site. And we have really high needs folks who are super vulnerable. And so that's not, 2 folks is not a lot. And so we do refer out, we have a 3rd-party mental health provider that we just started having in January, which has been extremely helpful for folks to have someone on site who they can go and talk to. We have folks that help out with transportation as well, because that's a huge issue for folks. And care coordination. So we work with different providers out in the community to help with physical health, mental health, behavioral health, substance use disorder, all those things. So it's not just us doing the services. We really refer out to the community, and we're lucky to be in a place that has a lot of those services.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just that whole idea of the community coming together and the important the important parts of that, the public and the private partnership and the faith community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that kind of speaks to the whole idea of what I hear is a community that wants to do something about this, not just put a Band-Aid on things or give voice to certain things, but then not follow through with action.
Mhm.
I really wanted to ask you as a result of that, let's say people are in a community where that level of trust and coordination hasn't existed, or it's just starting, or do you have any thoughts? Maybe you don't. I mean, this is kind of I know you don't have all the answers. What would be some first steps that people who really care about this issue, about
Yeah,
homelessness, that they could take, to kind of develop that sense of community, that sense of trust, those
absolutely.
partnerships, those type of things? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can try to. Yeah, I think, each county, and I'm pretty sure this is for Pennsylvania as well, has what's called like a coordinated entry system for homelessness. And there's so many different ways to kind of tap in and plug in. I think a lot of people want to help and they don't really necessarily know how to. And so I think trying to go see who are the providers in your community, who is already doing the work, and reaching out to them and seeing what help do they need. I'm sure that they all need help. We're always constantly needing help from folks, as nonprofits. So I think figuring out who runs the shelter or shelters, who is doing permanent supportive housing, who's housing your chronically homeless folks, and reaching out to them and seeing what they are needing, what they can do. We have folks who come, and we used to have dinners every week provided by our nonprofit, and we had to cut that out of our budget because it was just so tight. We're like, okay, that's the one thing that has to go is our meals. And so we reached out to the community, and now we have with COVID, a little different, but we have a full schedule. Once a week, there's a different group, Rotaries or churches, or just a group of gals who want to come in, and they come in once a week and cook a dinner for people. And that might not seem like a lot, but for our residents, it really is, to know that, hey, the outside community still cares about us. So that's just one thing that we have for our volunteers. But I think just really reaching out to the people who are already doing the work, and seeing, hey, how can I help? There's probably always going to be some place you can help. I know, like the shelters here, a lot of them have are 24/7, and so they need volunteers who can be on call and just be there too. So I think there's a lot of ways to plug in, and you just need to ask.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I can definitely appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you this. This is probably a question you have probably dealt with before, and it has to do with perceptions
Mm-hmm.
around homelessness, and especially for people who may have never encountered someone who's homeless. Maybe they come across somebody who's sleeping on a bench, or in their car in a parking lot or something of that nature. There's a lot of perceptions that people have
Yeah.
about folks that are experiencing homeless. Well, they're dangerous, or they're on drugs, or they have mental health issues, or
Mm-hmm.
any number of different things. What would you say, um, ways to overcome those kind of perceptions for folks that are really just starting to think about homelessness, and they're seeing an increase in across the country? What would you say would be some things to help people kind of overcome some of those perceptions?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a great question. And we come up with people like that all the time. Even people who come to the village who want to take a tour, who have those kind of perceptions. And I really try to, it sounds corny or cliche, but like really try to put yourself in those people's shoes, or even just trying to imagine, what it would be like. These people are on a 24-hour clock, trying to survive day to day. Trying to think of what would it be like if I didn't even know where I could store my food or store my belongings. You have to have everything on you, and having to deal with that every single day, not knowing where you're going to stay, what's around you. Homeless folks are as worried about their security as anyone who is housed, and I like to remind people that. I don't think they realize that as much, but yeah, just trying to imagine what it's like to day having to it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like they don't even have the first tier, and trying to figure out, there's no way. We always talk about, like trauma-informed care or substance use or behavioral health issues. There's no way folks are able to work on those kind of things if they're not housed. They don't have the minimum requirements you need in order to have like a thriving life, right? So trying to think of what it'd be like, and some people have lived that for years. And so with folks, I try to just, at the Village, it's easier because the folks are there and they can like spark up a conversation with people. But when you see people on the street or, flying a sign or whatever, I just try to ask people to just acknowledge their existence, and just, give them a smile. Which that sounds kind of weird in these days of smile, but just acknowledging their existence, I guess. And I always see such a difference in when I see someone on the street and do that, because they're so used to being invisible. So I don't know if that really answers your questions, but just trying to educate yourself though as well too. There's so many articles on kind of like evidence-based practices and like the reality of, when we were going to be building in, well, we're dealing with right now, we're building in Ording, as we had a lot of what we call not in my backyard, NIMBYism of people are like, yes, homeless people should have a place to stay, but not next to me, not right here. And so we did have to do a lot of education. We had open houses once a month, and a lot of people fear, property values are gonna go lower, crime's gonna go up, vandalism, drug use, drug dealing, all that kind of stuff. And people are really concerned about that and kind of fear of the unknown. But I would just say, try to educate yourself, because those have been proven time and time again to not be true. I said we have a great relationship with our community now is in Olympia, because they actually had a meeting and they said, they thought vandalism was going to go up, but it actually ended up going down because it's a business park. And so it's not 24/7. And now people know, we've been there for almost 7 years now. People know that there are 30 people living there. And so their vandalism has gone down and crime has gone down because there's actually 30 sets of eyes that are there. And like I said, homeless folks want their security as well too. So it's just been proven time and time again that all those kind of fear-based things aren't actually happening. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know from the work, the ministry that we do with folks that are homeless, I often remind people when they give kind of those same type of excuses for different things, and oftentimes they'll say, so crime doesn't happen and drug addiction doesn't happen,
Right.
and all those things don't happen in people who are in stable homes, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Never happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bring that up too because where we're at, we do background checks on folks. Folks are monitored. They have a case manager. We know where folks are pretty much. I can't say that for my neighbor, or if you own a home, you don't know who's, we have a guest policy as well. People sign in. You don't know who's visiting your neighbor. I feel like in some ways it's much more safer. We have a security system as well too, and it's a gated community, and I feel like it's much more secure than my actual neighborhood. So yeah, that's a really good point. Is that stuff happens in house communities?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I have found effective is I'm notorious for, I just carry stuff in the back of my trunk, right? And when I see somebody out, I'll stop and I'll talk to them. And one of the first things I'm always doing is asking for somebody's name. I'll share my name, and I ask for somebody's name because I am willing to bet they have not had to share their name in a long time. Nobody seems to care, right?
Yeah.
And when somebody has a name, they're now human.
Right.
And there's this connection that you can get, and somebody has, and then when you talk with folks, it's no longer you need to do this. It's now, this is a human being. And so we have a connection because we're both human beings. Mm-hmm. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to share what I've got.
Yeah.
And for me, oftentimes there's a sleeping bag, there's some food, those type of things that I just
Hmm.
keep in the back of the car. And that makes a huge difference
Absolutely.
in folks,
Yes.
that they can just come away feeling like, oh, they're human for a while.
Hmm.
Somebody recognized, saw their humanity, and wanted to be there with somebody. So
Hmm.
yeah, but great stuff. So we're getting close to the end here. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to, if people want to support what you're doing with Quixote Communities, what's the best way that people can do that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And I was told that our website's going to be on the screen, so I won't spell it out for you because it's a long one. But you can go to our website, quixotecommunities.org. There's a big donate button on there. We are kind of doing a online digital campaign right now because we were supposed to actually have our regular signature event this Friday, actually, where we're gonna, have a concert and whatnot. We had to cancel out, of course, with COVID. So we're trying to make up for the funds that we budgeted in that we're gonna get. So we're really doing a online campaign right now. So if folks have any extra money, $5, $10, whatever you can do, please support us at our website. And you can even just go to our website just to learn more about what we are and what we do. I know most of your folks are probably in Pennsylvania, so I won't ask you to ship us food or in-kind stuff, but
Where's
there's
the
our website.
website?
Really, very cool. Yeah, you can go to ways to give. There's different ways to give if you're in the Washington area by chance too as well. And we are slowly coming out with merchandise. Actually, we're really excited. We're going to get like t-shirts and hats and whatnot. So that will be coming out soon. And yeah, we're also, like I said, building in Ording as well. So we are doing a campaign to help raise money for furniture to furnish the villages to each of the cottages so that they can come in and have already a bed and a dresser and a closet and things like that. So that's another one of our campaigns.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, JC. I really appreciate your time. I know it's early there on the West Coast, so but I really do appreciate you coming on, talking about homelessness, giving us some insight into, this is a great way to overcome homelessness, build community with folks. Really kind of has major transformation in people's lives. And you're certainly in my prayers, and I wish you the best, and I'll look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this. This is great. I can't wait to see all of it.
Great, thanks.
All right, take care. Bye.